You're standing on the edge of a vast canyon. One jump will take you to your dream life, but the ground shakes beneath you, a paralyzing dread whispering, "You'll fall." What if the trembling wasn't fear, but the vibration of all the energy you need to make the leap? This was the exact mental precipice where Alex found himself every time he had to share his brilliant designs. Alex was a genius with graphics, a true artist who could communicate emotion through color and shape. But the moment he had to open his mouth in front of more than two people, his mind would dissolve into static. His heart hammered like a trapped bird, his throat constricted, and his carefully prepared words evaporated. This single crippling phobia, the fear of being judged and failing publicly, had been quietly draining the momentum from his career for years. He watched as less talented but bolder colleagues sailed past him, claiming the promotions and the high-profile projects simply because they could stand and speak confidently. The internal conflict was agonizing. He held the key to his own success, but a shadow locked his hand around the doorknob. This wasn't just stage fright. It was a fundamental barrier to his entire future, built not on lack of skill, but on an overwhelming dread of what if. This constant retreat from the spotlight had left him frustrated and deeply demoralized, turning his professional life into a self-imposed exile, where his greatest enemy wasn't external competition, but the internal voice of doubt. The breaking point arrived with the Phoenix Project, a high-stakes rebranding job for a major tech client. Alex spent 3 agonizing months pouring his soul into the work, creating what was arguably the best design of his career. The final presentation was scheduled in the client's boardroom, a gleaming, intimidating space with 15 executives waiting. 5 minutes before he was due to start, the familiar terror hit him like a tidal wave. He felt faint. His vision narrowed, and his hands, clutching the presentation clicker, began to shake so violently he had to hide them behind his back. He managed to stumble through the first 2 slides, mumbling his explanations and avoiding eye contact. When a senior VP asked a simple, clarifying question, Alex's mind went completely blank. He froze, speechless, for a humiliating 30 seconds that felt like an eternity. His partner, Ben, quickly stepped in, salvaged the presentation with a practiced, confident delivery, and fielded the remaining questions. Later that day, the client called to inform them they loved the concept, but felt the presenter, Alex, lacked the conviction needed to lead such a major initiative, deciding to award the contract to a competitor instead. That evening, alone in his empty office, staring at the flawless logo he had created for a company that now rejected him, Alex finally broke. He realized this fear hadn't just made him nervous, it had cost him his life's work, and he vowed that he couldn't allow this self-sabotage to continue defining his potential. The next day, still reeling from the failure, Alex reached out to Mia, a successful creative director he admired, who was known for her calm confidence in high-pressure situations. Mia invited him for coffee and listened patiently as Alex detailed his fear, describing it as a brick wall that stopped him dead every time. Mia smiled gently and shook her head. "Alex," she said, leaning forward, "you're wrong. It's not a wall. It's rocket fuel. The feeling you call fear, that heart racing, the intense focus, the sudden surge of adrenaline, that's pure, concentrated energy. It's the energy your body gives you when something truly matters. The only difference between someone who freezes and someone who excels is how they label that energy." She explained that when the mind perceives a high-stakes situation, it floods the system with power. If you define it as fear, you try to suppress it, which causes the energy to jam up, resulting in panic and paralysis. But if you define it as excitement, focus, or fuel, you instantly redirect that energy into your performance. Mia's words struck Alex with the force of a revelation. He wasn't weak. He was simply misinterpreting his body's powerful response to importance. Mia then gave Alex a challenging, non-traditional prescription. "You need to change the story you tell yourself about your nervousness. She instructed him to stop trying to eliminate fear, a battle he could never win, and start learning how to channel it. She introduced the tremor technique, a simple cognitive hack. Whenever he felt the familiar symptoms of panic, the racing heart, the shallow breath, he was to immediately say, internally or softly, "Ah, thank you. My focus energy has arrived." The goal was to welcome the adrenaline, not fight it. Alex started small. He intentionally sought out low-stakes, uncomfortable situations, asking difficult questions in team meetings, offering to lead small, informal knowledge-sharing sessions, and even volunteering to read his favorite poem at a local open mic night. Each time, the anxiety appeared, but instead of retreating, he took a slow, deep breath and reminded himself, "This is not fear. This is fuel for my voice." He focused on using the trembling energy to project his voice louder, speak with more intent, and maintain a sharp focus on his message rather than on his internal discomfort. Weeks turned into months, and Alex's new approach started yielding noticeable results. The panic didn't vanish, it rarely does entirely, but its power over him diminished significantly. He learned to recognize the physical symptoms of anxiety as a pre-performance power-up, a signal that his body was fully engaged and ready for action. He wasn't aiming for fearless perfection. He was aiming for functional courage, the ability to act despite the feeling. He found that when he labeled the trembling as excitement, his posture naturally improved, his voice became steadier, and his thoughts flowed more logically. His colleagues noticed the change. He was still quiet, but now he was assertive when it counted. He started leading design reviews, not just presenting them, and his insights, once muffled by anxiety, were now hitting the mark with clarity and impact. This process of deliberately stepping into discomfort, repeatedly reframing the feeling, and proving to himself that he could perform while nervous, rebuilt his self-trust, one small, terrifying step at a time. The cumulative effect transformed the wall into a springboard. The ultimate test came 6 months later. The firm landed a major pitch against their main rival, a company notorious for stealing talent and clients. This time, the stakes were personal. Alex was designated the lead presenter, a responsibility he accepted without hesitation, though his stomach still knotted with the familiar tension. The night before the presentation, the fear was almost overwhelming. Instead of tossing and turning, he stood in front of his mirror and practiced Mia's technique. He embraced the adrenaline, welcoming the intensity as a sign that this moment truly mattered, repeating, "This is the fuel that makes me sharp." When he entered the new, even larger boardroom the next morning, he felt the familiar rush of blood and the tremor in his hands. But this time, he didn't fight it. He acknowledged the energy, took a deliberate pause, and then, using the very intensity of his feeling to power his conviction, he launched into his presentation. Alex didn't just present the concept, he owned the room. His voice, usually hesitant, was firm and passionate, fueled by the adrenaline he had learned to channel. When the inevitable tough questions came, the intense focus that fear had provided allowed him to access his knowledge instantly and respond with surgical precision. He wasn't perfect. He stumbled over a word once, but instead of panicking, he simply paused, smiled, and moved on, demonstrating genuine human confidence. He didn't waste mental energy fighting his nerves. Every ounce was directed toward the client and the message. The presentation was a masterclass in controlled intensity. When he finished, there wasn't a nervous sigh of relief, but a quiet, profound sense of accomplishment. The executives broke into spontaneous applause, something rarely seen in that formal environment. Later that week, the firm received the call. They had won the contract, and the client specifically cited Alex's passionate and focused conviction as the deciding factor. The very thing he had feared the most, the public spotlight, had become the instrument of his greatest success. After the celebration, Alex called Mia to thank her. He confessed that he hadn't fully conquered his fear. He still felt nervous before every talk. Mia laughed kindly. "Of course you do, Alex. That feeling is proof you care." Courage is not the absence of fear, but the transformation of it. You simply stopped letting your fear tell you to run away, and you started letting it tell you how much you need to win. You learned that the trembling energy is not paralysis, but potential energy waiting to be released. Alex finally understood that the goal wasn't to become a robot devoid of emotion, but to become an alchemist, someone who could take the raw, unstable element of anxiety and refine it into the focused fire of high performance. He realized the fear was a permanent feature, a constant companion that signaled the importance of the moment, and that his success lay in his ability to welcome and redirect that intense, powerful signal. From that day forward, Alex stopped labeling high-stakes situations as threats and started seeing them as opportunities to deploy his personal, high-octane fuel. He kept seeking out challenges, knowing that each surge of anxiety was just another delivery of energy waiting to be channeled into innovation and conviction. He became a mentor to other designers who struggled with public fear, teaching them the tremor technique, and sharing his realization that the energy that makes you want to bolt from a stage is the same powerful energy that can make you burn brighter than anyone else on it. Alex's story became legendary at the firm. The quiet genius who found his voice by learning to use his nervousness as a superpower. He learned that the only way to truly transform fear into fuel is not to deny the feeling, but to change the intention behind the feeling, recognizing that everything you need to succeed is often hidden inside the very emotion that makes you want to quit. Success isn't about eliminating the trembling. It's about holding the steering wheel when your engine is running hot. The next time you feel that intense, uncomfortable surge of adrenaline before a big moment, before a job interview, a difficult conversation, a first date, or a huge presentation, don't call it fear. Stop for 1 second, take a deep breath, and label it. My fuel has arrived. Then use that powerful, focused energy to propel you forward into the very thing that scared you. It's time to stop letting fear be a wall and start letting it be the fire beneath your own ambition. The trembling isn't a sign you're broken. It's proof that you're ready. We hope Alex's story helps you rename your own anxiety into action. Please like and subscribe the channel if this resonated with you, and comment your opinion below. What's one fear you're going to rename as fuel this week?